Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. My son graduates college today, so both today and tomorrow are pre-tapes that I did about a week ago so that I could be with the family today. I'm sure you can understand. Bill Burr spoke to the New Yorker. Bill said, there was a thing for a while we're holding comedians accountable for what they were saying, like we were these wizards, like we'd go on stage and say something and then suddenly people thought that. And then meanwhile, corporate America could be as effed up as they want to be. Then Burr asked the interviewer, are you homophobic? The interviewer said, no. Burr said, all right, what joke could I tell that would make you homophobic? Is there a joke? How does that joke go? The New Yorker said, I agree with that up to a point, but I just wrote this piece about how parasocial relationships. Burr cuts in, the article says, with visceral disdain. Parasocial relationships? Who's going to say that now? Is that a sailing term? Parasocial? That sounds like some BS to censor a comedian and blame the ills of society on a comedian rather than the people that are actually making the effing laws. I'm not running into a box store. I'm not hiring people. I'm not trying to poison the effing food supply. New Yorker. As a journalist, if I say I just wrote a bunch of stuff down and you don't have to listen to me, that wouldn't fly. I have to take responsibility for what I'm saying. Burr. Journalism is not stand-up comedy. We're not in the same world. New Yorker. So what do you think your responsibility is? Burr. My responsibility is to make you laugh. And if I'm being malicious, people know. People know if you mean it or not. So what people did, you journalists, for a while there, not even because you gave an F, just because it was a hot story, all of a sudden you'd finish your act and somebody would be like, I want to talk about some of the statements you made. Statements? I was up there telling jokes. Burr continues, I've had people who've said effed up stuff about me on the internet, and then they come up to me and they're like, hey, Bill, how's your family? And I want to be like, you don't give an F about my family, but I can't, because they're a white woman, and I can't say anything. Oh my God, when a white woman complains, people listen, so I'm just cordial. And those are liberals, dude. And Burr said, are we only going to talk about this? Because I don't want to be this, political ideology guy. Burr was there to talk about Glengarry Glen Ross. Really good piece on the New Yorker. It's behind a paywall, but if you're good at the internet, you can figure it out. Nate Bargatze talked to USA Today last week. They described the scene as Nate is at the fundraiser for the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation. Nate gets up. He jokes he has a disdain for reading because every book is just the most words. We're told he's wearing a black tracksuit, unzipped to reveal a casual white t-shirt and sneakers, and he opens up with, I didn't know you all wore suits. My business casual is different than your business casual. It's the most ties I've ever seen in my life. That's a good way to warm up the crowd. I like it. He apologizes to the attendants. Reading is a hard thing. I really want to do it. I love the idea of it. He talked about his new book and said, we're not a book that's better than anybody. We're just one that sits there, and it's a fun read. And then after us, you go back to the books that you're actually going to learn something from. Nate looked back on the days of starting out and said, when I started in New York, I'd stand on the corner handing out flyers and I would get stage time if you could bring people into the show. Yeah, if you've ever been to New York City, I feel bad for those people doing that. You see them all the time in the Times Square area. It is awful. Nate said, I didn't imagine it to be the level that it's gotten, meaning his career being really huge. Specifically playing in front of 19,000 people at the Bridgestone Arena. It's kind of weird because you hit a moment with this thing that's been driving me for 20 years, and now you've got to think about what the next thing's going to drive you. That's where the Nateland Company and all the other stuff came in. As he said in a few other interviews, he thought about, maybe not being a clean stand-up. There were times when you'd feel like, all right, if I went another route, maybe I'd get to jump up. But fortunately, I'd always tell myself, nope, stay the course and just trust that it's going to work out. And then he once again in this interview floated that he's going to do 2 more tours. Atsuko Akatsuko is part of a New York Times series where Asian American comedians talked about people they really dug. Atsuko talked about Tig Notaro and said she's a friend now. But before that, she was a comedy idol of mine. She directed my first HBO special, The Intruder. She's unapologetically herself as a comedian and person and artist, super deadpan. And her joke, No Moleste, plays on linguistics and uses that as tension. Atsuko explains a lot of Americans only know one language, English, so the idea of hearing the word moleste is like, oh, it sounds like something that would have a negative connotation. She does the classic if this, then what setup. In stand-up comedy, that structure only works when you continue building out the bigger picture and go further, and she does that really well. I think about that joke a lot because it's so simple. It's not over-explaining a situation. It's trusting that all humans communicate similarly and that we all have the ability to see the absurd in situations. That's what I love about it. She plays at the height of people's intelligence. Moa Mayer spoke to the Houston Chronicle about coming to the States and said, there's an adjustment period. You can't just land and feel at home right away. A massive adjustment to the geography, the buildings, the people, everything. I landed here a few days before Halloween. I didn't even know what the hell Halloween was. Then 2 days later, everyone's naked and crazy and there's blood everywhere. Is beyond shocking and terrifying. It was a lot emotionally. I didn't have my mom or dad with me. It was just my sister and my brother. It was really tough for a while. Were our parents going to be okay? I left right before the oil fields were set ablaze. They wanted to protect me and get me out of there, but I almost wished I didn't leave. I wanted to stay with my mother and help as much as possible. Zarna Garg told a story on Fox News' Brian Kilmeade's show about how her father had set her up for an arranged marriage, and at 14 years old, Zarna made the decision, no. Zarna told Brian, my dad was like, listen, if you don't want to get married, you can't live here. He thought he would scare me into submission, and I thought he'd come around. I thought he's riddled with grief because his wife just died, my mom, and then he's going to come around. This is all going to be okay. We're basically in a face-off. She wound up couch surfing for 2 years. I showed up on my friend's house, and after a day, my friend's mom was like, you should go back. And that's when it hit me like, oh my God, I have nowhere to go. And it was almost 2 years of where can I go tonight? Zarna says her father was coming from a good place. I know it feels shocking here in America, but what he remembers is that I walked away from a guaranteed life that he was going to set up for me. He wasn't a bad guy, to be clear. He wasn't. He came from a good place. I have 3 siblings who were arranged. My sister was arranged and is deliriously happy and successful. TJ Miller is really into Bitcoin. He says eventually there will be a movie about the Bitcoin revolution, and it will be interesting because the revolution didn't happen all at once. According to TJ, it takes only a little over 2 full days to get the average person up to speed on Bitcoin. He was asked why more celebrities aren't Bitcoiners. TJ says most people refuse to sit down and study again. He was on Coin Stories and told host Natalie Brunell, it's really hard to get people to study after they graduate from any level. According to TJ, it will take you about 50 hours of study to truly understand Bitcoin. So by 2 days, he means 2 full days. See, I thought he meant 2 days in a row. No, 50 hours. So to say somebody it's going to take 50 hours for you to understand this, they're like, I don't want to. They can't even watch a Netflix series. They can't even watch White Lotus because it takes 7 hours. Miller introduces himself as the only celebrity that is a Bitcoiner. I can't really think of anyone else. You can tell that I'm passionate about it. So what I'd like to be able to do is be somebody that helps bring cultural awareness, spread awareness, and just be a trusting name and face in the Bitcoin community that hopefully will bring more people to it. And that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, please tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you're discovering this thing on YouTube, it's really an audio podcast. I'm just making these things because, you gotta. But smash the bell and hit the like and all that, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.